Welcome to the Investing Bros. I am T Shroom, and we're starting off the week right. We are the earliest crypto news show out there, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Bros. And if you're joining us for the first time, definitely consider subscribing and leave a like for me as well. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get right on into it. We've got some news here about Grayscale. You saw it in the thumbnail, so I want to get right to it. We also have some breaking news, so don't go anywhere. We're going to take a look at that as well from Asia, and then we're going to look at the charts, obviously, as well. So we had some moves over on Dogecoin. So what impacts will the Grayscale ETF sell-off have on Bitcoin price? So we've been seeing this. This has been the narrative since the approval of the Spot Bitcoin ETF. Experts digress on future Bitcoin price. Chris J. Terry, a Bitcoin payment specialist, argued that if Grayscale continues selling its fee higher than what BlackRock charges for its iShares Bitcoin trust, would be considered one of the biggest strategic errors in crypto history. Pretty big statement there from Terry. He expects the Bitcoin price will continue flat or lower before a possible liquidation of GBTC. So let's take a look here at Bitcoin's price. I'm on the 4-hour, and since the approval that took place back here on the 10th, right, we've seen pretty much downward movement. Now, we had a huge spike at the actual approval, and that's to be expected, right? Big moves up here, but since then it's been down and to the right, with some varying levels of support being broken. Currently, right now, we are actually pretty low, right? Some of the lows here for the last couple of weeks. So I have a bit of a theory here. I have a bit of a theory that kind of makes sense in the context of some of the other headlines we've seen from GBTC and from Barry Silbert. So let's go over here. Barry Silbert resigns as Grayscale chairman to be replaced by Mark Schreifk. Now, this is old, right? This is from December 26th, but I think it might be starting to make sense here. So Barry Silbert, he's no dummy, right? He understands how ETF fees work. Now, the ETF fee for iShares, I believe, is 0.25, right? So 0.25, just a quarter, right, of a fee, whereas the GBTC spot Bitcoin ETF is still 1.5% fee. And that is exactly what Terry is calling, Chris J. Terry is calling the biggest strategic error in crypto history. So why would they make this error? Why would they choose to not be competitive with not only iShares, which is the leader here, which is kind of expected to be the leader, but all the other ones? There's not a single spot Bitcoin ETF that was approved that has a fee above or even close to 1%. And so GBTC's fee is not only 1%, it's 1.5%. So it really begs the question of why. So, I think that it has a little bit to do here with the SEC, with Barry Silbert leaving, and then with this man who is named here in the title of this article, Mark Schreif. So follow me here, guys. Just a quick disclaimer. We're going to get to the breaking news. We're going to look at the charts a little more. But this isn't something that I'm saying is true. I'm saying it's starting to make a little bit more sense as I'm connecting the dots. I wouldn't call this a tinfoil hat because I'm not making any giant leaps here. I'm just kind of showing you the facts and showing you how these can all kind of be brought together. And maybe start to make a little bit more sense. So let's take a look at the fee structure first of all. I was alluding to it. I'm here on nerdwallet.com of all places to find the fee structure, but it's been famously kind of tweeted out by Eric Balkanis. Now it's making its way onto credit card websites. Anyway, top 10 spot Bitcoin ETFs by fee. So as you can see here, not a single one of and these are all of them, not a single one of the 9, right, have a fee above 1%. Okay. Except for Grayscale Trust. So Grayscale Trust, not only above 1%, but it's 1.5. Okay. Now some of these aren't even above 0.5. In fact, all of them, except for the Valkyrie Bitcoin Fund, is all below 0.5. Okay. So I'm belaboring the point here. The point is that Grayscale is knowingly uncompetitive here. They're uncompetitive, and I think that we're starting to see the reason why Barry Silbert may have been why he stepped down, why he resigned as chairman of Grayscale, because Bitcoin's price has been having unfavorable movement. Now, if I'm Gary Gensler, I'm going to connect all the dots here. If I'm Gary Gensler, if I'm Jamie Dimon, right, I don't want Bitcoin to go up. I don't necessarily want all of my clients, and I don't want the industry pouring into and confirming the positive bias of these spot Bitcoin ETFs being a bullish catalyst for Bitcoin, right? So a lot of folks, contacted their Bitcoin knowledgeable friends and family and said, hey, this whole spot Bitcoin ETF thing, should I get in? A lot of them did, right? And a lot of them are sitting here holding the bag and calling their knowledgeable Bitcoin friend and family saying, hey, what the heck, Bitcoin's lower? I thought that you said that Bitcoin was going to go higher after this event. And this is exactly what Gary and Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren want, right? They want the new money who don't have the full conviction of why Bitcoin is valuable, why Bitcoin is the future of stored value, why Bitcoin is the new gold. They're not worried about those people. People who already believe that, they're a foregone conclusion, right? But there's a lot of new money, a lot of new minds, a lot of new investors that are coming into the space because of this big bullish moment for Bitcoin, right? Well, if I can keep a bearish narrative going, then I can disappoint all those people, and I can have a portion of them never come back to the Bitcoin markets, never see crypto as a viable investment opportunity. They're going to look at this, they're going to say, you know what? This Bitcoin, it's just going down. It's just going lower, and they're going to be right. And so they're just going to sell, and they're going to take like a 5%, maybe 10% if they bought the top here. If they bought the top up here, right? They're going to take a loss, and they're going to say, all right, I'm just going back to Tesla. I'm going back to Microsoft, going back to the S&P, and they'll be gone. Now, another portion is going to stick around, right? They're going to hold, and they're going to be rewarded ultimately. But I think right now, if I'm Jamie Dimon, if I'm Gary Gensler, I'm playing this card, and the card I'm playing here is replacing Barry Silbert, putting some pressure, and again, I can't prove this, putting some pressure on Barry Silbert to resign from Grayscale, right? Taking away his control over what the fee structure is for the spot Bitcoin ETF, GBTC, flipped into spot, and replacing it with this man, Mark Shifke. Now, nothing bad about him. I don't think that he's the worst guy ever. Don't get the wrong impression. But he did work for 4 years at JP Morgan Chase. He was a managing director. Okay, that doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not saying that. Look, I have no reason to believe he's not the salt of the earth. However, he has working 4 years at JP Morgan, and then before that, Goldman Sachs, right? You learn how to play ball. You learn how to help those who have helped you in the past, which, is that so wrong to help those who have helped you? So ultimately here, guys, you kind of seeing how the dots are all connecting. And again, I'm not holding to this theory really strongly. I'm not married to it, right? But it does kind of start to make sense, because if I'm Gary Silbert, why would I resign from the board of Grayscale, right? It just doesn't make a ton of sense, and we didn't really get a very good explanation from that. For those of you who aren't tracking, DCG, Digital Currency Group, Barry Silbert is the CEO of that, okay? Grayscale is a offspring company. It's wholly owned, or its parent company is DCG, okay? So Barry Silbert has every right. It's very, very routine for the CEO of the parent company to sit on the board of the sibling of the offspring company, okay? So hopefully I've connected all the dots here for you guys. And what I will say also is that this is short-term bearish, right? And I think that we're probably through the worst of it, and long-term very, very bullish, because ultimately here what I think is going on is that, the powers that be that don't really want a huge money and mind and investment and conviction rotation into Bitcoin as the new gold, they're trying to keep their finger on the scales to keep the masses from getting in and feeling that immediate positive reinforcement that Bitcoin good, right? So if we come back to this article here, we can see Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz disagrees with Terry's thesis. Instead, he expects Bitcoin's price to stabilize in 6 months as people move to other funds. They are unlikely to cash out of GBTC, right, trying to avoid that 1.5 fee without considering other Bitcoin investments. And I can't agree with Mike more here, right? Obviously, if you had money in GBTC, you were early, you had strong conviction in Bitcoin. Okay, you were also willing to pay that 1.5 fee. That's been there for a long time, while it was a futures, while it was a trust. Okay, So I think that money, right? It's smart money. It's early money into Bitcoin. I think what they're going to do, I think what that money is waiting on is a trip down here to lower prices. And I think that's what the majority of the market is waiting on, right? So and I'm telling a story here. I'm not really doing a ton of technical analysis. I'm just kind of using the charts here to continue to tell the story here. And I think it's valuable. I think it's valuable because it's a good explanation of why we're seeing price movement in the way that we are. Why hasn't price gone up to at least 50,000 yet, right? Why hasn't it moved up to test all-time highs? We just got this huge bullish catalyst. Well, I'm explaining why. I'm explaining a reason why. Maybe not the reason, okay? But as you can see here, this is something I've been talking about. Price has not been able to close a candle below 41,200 since before December 11th, since December 4th. December 11th was the closest that we've come. Now we are getting close to closing a candle below 41,200. However, we have still a long time before this candlestick actually closes. Okay, you can see here on my screen, boom, right there. Okay, so it's still a while before this candlestick closes. But what I'm seeing is that potentially buyers are getting exhausted, right? All the hungry buyers, whether institutional or retail, that were buying here, they were like, oh, heck yeah, we're buying 41.2 all day, baby. We're anything below that, we are buying it up, okay? So they waited, they're waiting. They want to hit the midline of the Bollinger Band here, intraday, right? But by the end of the day, they're wanting to buy that back up. Same thing here, back in December 18th. And same thing here, there was a lot of bullishness as leading up into the actual approval. And then back here, we've seen the same thing, right? Hungry buyers just south of 41.2. Now, where are the buyers today? They may come back and buy this candle back up to 41.2 and keep it above. But ultimately, right, in theory, we should be trading up here post spot Bitcoin ETF. I think the reason why we're not is because this man, Barry Silbert, would have led the board of Grayscale to remove completely the fee, right? So that this fee, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust fee, would essentially be not 1.5, but 0, or at least competitive, like 0.2, 0.25, something like this to compete, to incentivize investors to not skedaddle out of GBTC, to lose their lead, but to stay in and hodl and keep the price, moving up and to the right, create stability, create a positive price structure for Bitcoin to build on instead of weak sand for it to slump down. And this also works in the favor. Another node to this theory is it also works in the favor of BlackRock. Why? Because they're getting huge rotations out, like what Mike Novogratz just said. They're getting rotations out of Grayscale and into these other ETFs, namely BlackRock, right? So they're shaking out. Investors are scared of that 1.5 fee. They're shaking out. They're going into BlackRock, or they're sitting on the sidelines, which is what I think the overall narrative, because of the Dixie continuing to remain higher. When this starts to pull back, right, then price goes up for Bitcoin. But as long as Dixie is continuing to kind of inch up here, I'm on the 4-hour. I'll go to the daily real quick for reference. Right, it's been aggressively moving higher into 2024. That's the Dixie. Now, there's a lot going on there that you maybe don't understand, but stick with me. Once that starts to come back down, right, and once Bitcoin probably comes down and tests lower, probably around 37 is probably a pretty good estimate. I've got it drawn here. This line is a historic support, and then also you get the VPVR showing high buy volume here, right? So probably not going to go much lower than 37,000, but this could be, right, if we don't get those hungry hippo buyers at sub 41.2, then we could see that candlestick come down, test down here. I don't think it's going to stay down there very long because everybody on the sideline and their grandma has been waiting for this test lower, right? Having gotten it since December 4th, right? Everybody kind of thinking we're going to get a big test lower. Some people calling for 25,000, 28,000. We had Piano Matty B and then Magic Internet Money both dropping those numbers. I think my thesis is that we do need to have a bigger move lower in order to knock out some of this liquidity, and then we move higher, right? So I'm still in favor of that, but ultimately we could still keep getting these hungry hippos wanting to fill up around 40,000, just below 41.2. Okay, we've belabored the point. Hopefully I've completely nailed this theory. Again, not saying that I'm married to it. I'm not holding on to it strongly, but it does kind of make sense, right? It does kind of make sense. You've got to... I'm not gonna rehash it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know in the chat do I have a big tinfoil hat on here? Does it not make sense? Or does it kind of add up? Again, I'm not making an argument here that anybody is trying to bring the price of Bitcoin lower for good. What they're trying to do is keep their finger on the scales, keep the price lower for a variety of reasons that I've laid out, and then take it off, and then boom, right? They would probably want to keep their hand on the scales forever, right? But ultimately, GBTC only had so much investment, so eventually the folks who are going to sell, that's going to slow down, that's going to leave. But for now, there is still the expectation that there's going to be more selling for GBTC. In fact, you can see at the top of this article, Grayscale Investments sold Bitcoin after converting Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to ETF, potentially impacting Bitcoin's price. The company transferred 8.7 thousand Bitcoin to Coinbase. Ultimately, what do you do? What's that for? It's to sell it. Okay. So there's a lot going on. Hopefully that theory resonates with some people. Let me know. Is there a big flaw in that theory? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. But speaking of the chat, let's jump over here. We had Dylan Martinez, the first in the chat, saying GM bros. GM, he was in there early too. I was watching it. Nancy Croy, the first live chat of 2024. I'll never give that up. He said, "Good morning, bros." We got some GMs here from Ninja Glock, French Toaster, Yellow, a Mellow Fellow, and Blackie Chan 577. We're having fun here. We're having fun. We like to have fun on the Investing Bros. And also Jonathan Derby. Jonathan, awesome. Oh, Sativio Shrimoto in the chat as well. Take your guess of who that might be. All right. Let's see. I don't see a ton of comments on the theory that I'm laying out here, but Luigi Fibonacci said Piano Matty B opened my eyes to potential OXI clean head and shoulders pattern. Okay. I'm not going to try to map that out today. Tom said most people want to sell to keep profits or cut losses. Feel sorry for stakers. Okay. Just joined. Good morning, guys. Good morning. All right. So we got the most important comment here from GS, reminding you all to smash the like button. So definitely do that. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I, of course, am T-Shroom. This is the earliest crypto news channel that ever existed, right? No, it's definitely not the one that ever existed. When we get to the bull run, there's going to be a lot more channels, guys. Going to be a lot of fly-by-nights, a lot of floozies, okay? You want to stay tuned with the information that you can rely on, which is here on Investing Bros. Speaking of which, we've got some breaking news. We'll get into it right here, right now. South Korea's Office of the President has urged the regulator to consider approving Bitcoin ETFs. So South Korea famously kind of came out saying that they will not allow investors to buy, through their various international markets, the American spot Bitcoin ETFs. Well, now the Office of the President is kind of taking the over on that, saying, hey, not so fast. This whole Bitcoin thing is really heating up. We don't want to be left behind. Okay, so more on that coming soon, of course. But in the same way, OSL executive says Hong Kong could debut spot crypto ETF by mid-year. Interesting language there. We also, around the same time, the spot Bitcoin ETF in America getting approved, we also had a headline that Hong Kong was considering approving some applications there for a spot Bitcoin ETF, which would be very, very big. That would be very big because, of course, they're in China, right? It's virtually illegal to own Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Now, there's some exceptions to that, and there have been some thawing to that just all-out flat unilateral ban, right? There has been some thawing, and that's why this headline, especially in tandem with the Korean headline, is important because the overall Asian thaw narrative is in play, and with this headline and the one from Korea, we are seeing a continuation of that thaw, right? So that's good. I don't think we're close yet. I think it's probably, if we do get like a big headline of, the major Hong Kong regulator approves spot Bitcoin ETF in Hong Kong. I think that's going to probably be at soonest, probably the summer. I think right now they're just kind of showing, hey, the appetite is there. Our minds are open. We're not completely closed off. Korea came out and said, our minds are completely closed off. And today we got a little bit of hope that maybe that's not going to be a long-term perspective, as the office of the president is urging regulators to consider approving spot Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, so bullish, right? And we haven't heard a ton in 2024 from that Asian thought narrative. We're getting it today. Now, this weekend, all the fuss, all the crypto fuss, all the headlines, what were they about? Dogecoin. Dogecoin had a nice move higher, and then it's as of today, it's retraced, kind of got swept up in the overall bearish sentiment of the markets. But trading volumes for both tokens, Dogecoin and Floki, shot up. Trading volumes, not the price, shot up 200% over the weekend. CoinGecko data shows. And elsewhere, futures tracking the token saw open interest rise to a cumulative 430 million from 200 million. Okay, so that's pretty bullish. Now, why was this? Well, Doge has a tendency to surge as payments-related developments at any Elon Musk-owned company, such as X or Tesla, and Floki is named after Musk's dog, moves as a beta bet among mid-cap traders. So it's because there was a speculation that advertisers could be able to pay Doge for ads and for other uses on Twitter. Okay, and that was basically all the rage this weekend. So just in case you missed it, that's why Doge was up. If you didn't even see what Doge did price action wise, I'll go ahead and pull that up as well for you. I'm on the daily chart for Dogecoin, so not fully giving up those gains, which is nice to see. Dogecoin putting in a 11% candle. That's pretty good, almost 11.5% candle. It's given up a good amount of that, though, given up almost 5%, back to basically the half point of that full candle body from the 20th. But what do you see? What am I going to say? Right? It's held that midline of the Bollinger Band, okay, on the daily chart. That's pretty big. You've got the green histograms accelerating, starting to plateau here on the daily chart on the 4-hour. Let's take a look, see what we can't pull out. Yeah, so staying above the midline of the Bollinger Band on the 4-hour as well. Getting a bearish cross here on the MACD lines, however, and an red sprouting of the histograms there. So overall, kind of cooling off for Dogecoin. But as it does find stability, not only on the 4-hour and the daily charts, midline of the Bollinger Band, we could see a push higher potentially, right? Especially if there's another tweet or some kind of proclamation from Elon Musk, the innovator in general, saying anything about Dogecoin. Even if he says something negative, right? It could be taken as sarcasm, and a move to the upside for Doge could be imminent, and as well as for Floki apparently. So just in case you missed it, that was something I wanted to bring to your attention. Something else I want to bring to your attention, there'll be some economic prints later in the week. I'll bring you more into these details, but we have earnings season. So this is the most anticipated earnings releases from Earnings Whisper. Guys, we're investing bros, right? So we're going to cover stocks a little bit, but I'm not going anywhere near in depth. The show after this one, Army Pipers, Piper Academy, will go more than likely a little more in depth here on the earnings season. These are important though, because this affects the NASDAQ. It affects overall bullish or bearish sentiment. If all of these companies suck and they have terrible earnings, that's not going to necessarily bode very well for Bitcoin. Or a narrative could emerge that a lot of liquidity rotates out of U.S. equities into cryptocurrencies, into gold, into real estate, right? Trying to find other places to go have fun to the upside rather than staying in a sinking ship. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the earnings of these companies. It could be a wash and it kind of doesn't have an effect on markets. But what I've been hearing is that corporations should be teed up for pretty good earnings season. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, guys, for sure. Monday, looks like you had United Health. I don't know that you care about this. Logitech. Ultimately, if I'm tuning into Investing Bros, I'm probably not thinking a whole lot about stocks, but you probably got them in your 401k. So might be interesting to take a look here. We've got some big ones coming out on Wednesday. We've got Tesla, IBM, AT&T On Tuesday, Netflix, Verizon, 3M. Thursday, Visa, Intel, American Airlines, okay, and so on and so forth. The main point here is that earnings season is upon us, and this could potentially have some ripple effects into the crypto markets. Definitely not a guarantee, but it's something that we'll monitor. If there is any kind of significant developments in that regard, I will absolutely bring it to your attention. Just as I brought to your attention the show that comes out after this show, which is Army Piper and the Piper Academy. You don't want to miss it. They have a ton of fun over there at the Piper Academy. Another thing you don't want to miss is Tim's video he just put out on, and Tim is my partner here at the Investing Bros, just put it out, much more in-depth view of Cardano. So how low will Cardano go? He's going to tell you his next Cardano buy level, so you don't want to miss that video. It came out just an hour ago. It's hot off the press, guys. Be careful when you're clicking on this because it might burn your fingers with how hot it is, but you definitely don't want to miss it. Guys, we are here at 9:30. Market opens in just a few minutes in New York. We'll be watching. We've got the earnings seasons coming up. We've even got a pretty, I think that overall, kind of answering the question of Greyscale selling, is this going to be a huge bearish week for crypto? I think that Grayscale, a lot of the shoe that was going to fall at the whole Grayscale, the whole fee fiasco, I think a lot of the shoe has fallen for Grayscale. I think a lot of folks who wanted to get out of that investment and rotate into either the sidelines or right back into Bitcoin exposure have done that. I could be wrong on that, but ultimately I do think that we're nearing the end of that bearish move, that bearish phenomenon on the price of Bitcoin. I do think we're nearing the end of that. I think ultimately what we'll see here, kind of finishing up here, let's go back to the daily chart. I think what we'll see is a closing of the candlestick below 41.2 today or tomorrow or maybe the next day, right? And then that's going to be pretty bearish, right? That's going to cause price to go ahead and capitulate, move lower. All the new money that has been holding on, God bless them, is going to go ahead and release. Their diamond hands will be shown as weak, and price will go ahead and move and test some of these levels that Tim and I have been talking about, whether it be 37, probably on the bullish scenario, 35, a little more bearish, or whether it be all the way down to 20, I believe it was 28 from Piano Matty B and Magic Internet Money. It's in the cards to go that low. Bitcoin has definitely done more volatile moves before than that. But ultimately, I do think we get a pretty good dump, a pretty good shed for folks to go ahead and bill for Bitcoin convicted folks to fill up their bags, to spook the market, to give some talking points to Jamie Dimon to come out and say more things about Bitcoin, even though he said he wasn't gonna, right? And then we have a resumption higher, and the bull market is on big time in full stride. But until now, it's a little bit of uncertainty, and it looks like Grayscale continues to hold a lot of the cards here, and they are kind of sitting behind the controls of whether Bitcoin is going to go higher, stay sideways, or go ahead and dump. All right. Well, guys, I've been T-Shroom. This is the earliest crypto news that you're going to find on the planet. Isn't that awesome? You're tuned into them. You're probably already subscribed to them, but if you're not, go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a like on the way out. I'm T-Shroom on Twitter. Definitely go ahead and follow me there. I'm dropping alpha all day. And guys, bros, gents, ladies, I am about to go watch the one and only Piper Academy. Go ahead and jump on over there, and I will see you there in the chat, having some fun. But keep your stop losses tight, stay hydrated, and have some fun today. Happy Monday.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.